Hi everyone, my name is Ishita and I'm the trainer for SAP SuccessFactors Learning Management System from Uplatz. So today we will be talking about the navigation of the administrator interface. So, in the previous sessions, we have understood how the administrator roles are created, how an administrator accesses from the learning interface, and how their roles are being created, how their privileges are being granted, how security models are being designed, and how will it, impact and the privilege permissions are being restricted over there. So, this is something that we have looked at in the previous sessions. So today we will be talking about the navigation of the administrator interface. So let's first look at what we will be covering today as part of the table of contents, and then we will gradually proceed further to look at the each of the slides. So, like for example, we have seen that what we will be covering today. Let's talk about is SuccessFactors Learning Administration Interface. Next is access SAP SuccessFactor Learning as an administrator. Third is the explore the all the layouts of the administrator interface and entities. So we have talked about, something called as item, curricula, program, courses, classes. These are all various entities in the administrator interface. How are they controlled? How their visibility is being managed? How are each of the fields, being used? So this is something that we will look about in the layouts. How is each of the icons being displayed? If how to hide the fields, how to display the values, how to make a field mandatory. So these are all the important aspects of the layouts of the administrator interface. So as a learning administrator, this is important for us to help, the employees or the users to understand the layout first of the administrator interface. How will the layout look as an administrator interface? How will the entities be, used? How will it be configured? Next is navigation to cross-linked entities. So when I talk about cross-linked entities, it means that item, which is an online learning course or a classroom learning course, it would be linked to curriculum, which is a bundle of items or two or three of the learning courses in a learning, module. So those will be linked to three or four of the learning courses. So that is cross-linking the entities within the a learning management system. So when I talk about, cross-linking, so how the item and curricula is to be mapped together, how will that look in the user interface, or how will they be able to access as a user? How will, the completions be tracked? Will it be tracked as a, single item, or will it be tracked as a bundle of group of items? So that is something we will look at today. Next is layout of the learning administration homepage. This explains the entire layout of the learning administration homepage. What are each of the buttons used for? What are each of the icons used for? How does the navigation look like? How does it we navigate to? What is it important? What is the specification of each of the entities, or what is the specification of each of the buttons? Next is menu navigation. How do we navigate through the menus, the buttons that we navigated? Next is the recents. There is a tab called recents. So how do we navigate from the recents? Next is workspace area. When I talk about workspace area, we have a workspace area where, it defines how the each of the fields or how each of the search fields are defined, how they are configured, how do they look like. So this is something we will look at. Okay. Next is layout of the entity manager. So the other day, I hope you remember that, I have talked about learning administration, and then I talked about my team. I talked about my classes, and I also talked about my learning. So these are the various layouts. So when I talk about layout of the entity manager, a manager will have, their reporting lines. They will also be able to, pull up the learnings. They will be able to assign or remove the learning. So this is something that they will be able to access. So how the layout is designed, how do we enable all the permissions? How do they, how the permissions are being specified? How the work it does it work in terms of in terms of, reportees. When a manager, I as a manager access the learning, success factors learning space, how does it reflect? So this is something that we will talk about. So let's look at the beginning of the slide. So the first one is navigation of administrator side of interface. So when I talk about navigation of administrator side of interface, what does it mean? How does it look like? How do we access SAP SuccessFactors learning as an administrator? So as an admin, it is very important for us to understand how does it look like, right? So, SAP SuccessFactors Learning Administration may be launched from the SuccessFactors HXM homepage, which is the Human Experience Management homepage, by selecting the Learning Administration tile from Quick Actions or by typing Learning Administration into the Action search box. So, as you can see in the below screenshot, this is a how the employee homepage looks like. This is a glimpse of the employee homepage. So when I talk about you know employee homepage, this is how the employee homepage looks like. What are the various boxes that you see? You see some in blue, green, magenta, purple, different colors. You see something written as for you today, and that is written as learning assignments. So what are this called as? These are called as nothing but tiles. So this is the employee homepage, which is the human experience management homepage. Under the human experience management homepage, you will have various things such as, HXM, which will have my team. When I talk about managers, they will have access to my team. They will have, employees will have their own profile. Everybody will be able to see how their, position org chart or hierarchy org chart looks like. Next is my goals. So something related to performance and management, goal management. So you will have your performance, career path under the my goal section. Then you see something called as my learning, which is the learning page of the user. So if a user clicks on the my learning tab on the employee homepage, they will be navigated to the learning homepage of the user profile. Now, on the top, you see that, there is a search icon written as learning administration. Where does it navigate down to? It navigates down to the learning administration tile from quick actions or by typing learning administration into the action search bar. So it happens that many a times, we are not able to see under quick actions, or, some customers do not prefer to keep learning administration under their quick actions. When I talk about quick actions, it means under this styles. So what is the process? So we as administrator, how do we navigate into learning administration? We will just write learning administration in the search box and we will be able to navigate down to the learning administration. Okay, now the learning administration page opens up. Now let's look forward. So this is the layout of the learning administration homepage. The learning administration homepage consists of the menu navigation, which is all the menus. We can also have an option to expand. We also have an option to collapse. Okay. We have a header toolbar. This is the header toolbar. We have the administrator introduction. This is called the workspace area. This the entire thing that you see. This is the default thing of SAP SuccessFactors Learning. We also have a question mark icon over here, wherein, if you click on the help icon, it navigates directly down to the success factors learning homepage. Then we also have something called as full screen mode. Right now you see the presentation, so it is in full screen mode. So you know that there is something called zoom in and zoom out. So similarly, for the learning administration page, we also see a full screen mode. Okay. Under the menu navigation, we see manage user learning, we see learning activities, we see content, we see people, finance, system administration, references, reports, preferences. All of these functionalities which you see under the menu option, or all of the entities that you see under the menu option, are used by the learning administrator in either or the some form. Okay, so when we talk about used in either or some form, it means that in day-to-day activities of the of handling the employee, records of learning, manager records for learning or for the direct reportees, instructor records for learning classes. So all of this is being controlled only through the menu navigation. So you need to understand what are the menu navigation options that we have available. Under each of the navigation options, what are the various options that we have available? All right. Now let's look at, the first layout of the learning administration homepage. Let's look at the definition of the terminologies for the learning admin homepage. So the learning administration homepage consists of the menu navigation, header toolbar, and the administrator introduction. Description of the terminologies for each of the learning admin homepage. What does each means? What does header toolbar mean? Header toolbar provides access to full screen mode and help. What does it mean? It means header toolbar provides access to full screen mode and help. We have seen that we have the option of zoom in and zoom out. We also have an option of question mark, which navigates directly to the SAP help portal, wherein we get answers to our various questions as administrator. Okay. Next is full screen mode. When the full screen mode icon is selected, the left side menu navigation option will either show or hide. It expands the workspace area as it increases the screen real estate for the administrator to work with. So it gives more, workspace area. It gives more navigation, ease of the navigation, right? So that is why, some users use full screen mode when they are navigating as an administrator. Next is help icon. The help icon displays at the top right corner of the header toolbar. Clicking this icon displays context sensitive help for the specific section currently open. Suppose you are on the item page, right? When you're on the item page or when you're on the LMS admin access page, you might be facing some issue with the item. Anything related to item, maybe a terminology definition you want to look at, maybe a functionality definition you want to look at. So that is something the help icon will help us to provide with more details and definitions. It opens the online help with access to contents, index, search, and the system glossary. Next is menu navigation. Access to the menu choices will differ depending on the permissions in the administrator roles you are assigned to. Okay, next is workspace area. We will look at each of the definitions in the further slides. Initially, the workspace area will display the user introduction for the administrator, which may be configured to include a welcome video or text. Once a selection is made from a menu, this area will display a search screen or another page. Now, coming to the first topic, which is the menu navigation, important, functionality in the administrator side of the interface. The menu navigation section, which has, multiple menu choices and options, the one that you see is expanded on the screen, plays a very important role or a key role in handling all of the functionalities on the system. So this is the key functionalities of the SuccessFactors learning management system. Without the defining each of the functionalities, it is practically impossible to understand the definition of each of the uh, entities which are available on the menu navigation option. So let's look at each of them. The menu navigation section, main menu, contains menu choices that provides access to the main functional areas in SAP SuccessFactors Learning. The menu tab displays all possible menus available to the administrator based on their assigned roles. Yes. In the previous sessions, we talked about, roles, permissions, security, permission restrictions, domain. With all of that, areas coming into picture, with all of that content coming into picture, everything is visible on the menu navigation option based on what are the roles, what is the role assigned to you, what are the permissions granted to you, what are the, each of the, under each of the navigations option, what is the field permission provided to you. So these are all the important, menu navigation options that are available. So it is important when I talk about menu choices and options. So you will have to understand from each of this, like how will you navigate to each of the menu options. All right. Now let's look at the next one. When a menu choice is being selected from the menu navigation, the available options are displayed in a hierarchical tree. For example, access an item, you must navigate to learning activities items. So as I talked about in the previous slides, we have an option to expand all, we have an option to collapse all. We can expand this menu, we can collapse as and required. We also have the feasibility to either expand or collapse, each of the entities separately while we are working on each of the fields, right? So it says search for menu options or recently accessed entities. So we have, something to do with the items. So we can click on items and we can, look forward to search for a particular item. We can look forward to, delete an item or anything related to item. Suppose I have dated the keyword, I have input the keyword as item. So when I have input the keyword as item, all the terminologies or fields which are related to item or which has a keyword of item, everything will appear over the screen, right? Next move, let's move to the next one, which is recents. When an administrator views or edits certain main entities, they will automatically be listed on the recent screen. This permits the administrator to go back easily and quickly to the previous 50 entities on the list. The main entities include assignment profile, class, content object, content package, coupons, curriculum, curriculum requirement, exam, item, library, program, quizzes, and user profile. All right. So when an administrator views or edits certain entities, so suppose we have opened an assignment profile, right, which is an automated job process. We have, viewed or we have reviewed something, we have updated, maybe modified or added, deleted something we have done in that particular assignment profile. So where will we see the log into? Under the recent section. Under the recent section, you will be able to see the assignment profile, right? Under the assignment profile section, you don't need to go back again to the entire assignment profile and search for that particular assignment profile, right? So in that case, what will happen is when you don't need to go back to the profile and search and find out of, suppose there are like 100 assignment profiles. Now it becomes easy when a recent option is being used. It means that you have just recently opened an item or you have recently opened a maybe an library. So it becomes easy. You can directly go to that particular library, look at whatever you want to, and then you can close it off. So that is the functionality of recents. Next is workspace area. When a choice is made from the main menu navigation on the left, the workspace area for that selection appears on the right. This is the working area where searches are conducted to retrieve, view, and edit entities. So this is the item page of the administrator interface. We have various fields over here. You have locales. Local is nothing but various languages, right? Then we have item type, which is nothing but online class or an instructor-led class, right? We have the revision date. What does revision date mean? Revision date means the date on which the item was created or probably the revised version of the item will be available under the field revision date. So if we know the date, we can input the revision date and we can search it. Okay, next is item title, which is importantly used. Item ID and item title are the two important fields which are, extensively used to search for any particular item. When you want to create a new item, what do you use? So you use the option of add new. You see the option of add new over here and we use the option of add new to create a new item. We also see the field of security domains, which I talked about. Security domain, yes. When there are, different domains, I give an example of east, west, north, south. So suppose there are, items which are relevant to South domain. We will put the security domain contains South and we will click on search. So all the domains that are available in the South domain will be available under the item search option. We can also put a filter on item type. We can select it as online and then we can put it as security domain as South and search over there. So this will give us a list of all the items that are available for all the users or for all the administrators, which items are available under which domain. So this is more of workspace area. Then we also have classes, we have programs, curricula, we have something called as external link, we have competencies, we have class group, we have content. How do we upload the content, right? So all of this is being visible over here. Next, navigation of administrator site interface. How does it look like? Layout of the entity manager is made up of three main components: entity header, entity tabs, entity details area. Okay, the entity manager is made up of three main components, which is header, tabs, and details area. Okay, let's look at this. This is the layout of the administrator manager. Okay, so we have, various one, two, three. So let's come back to each one step by step. First is entity header. The entity header provides immediate entity information. It contains primary information such as title, description, respective entity status, and additional entity specific information such as the average rating for items. Listed below are common fields across all the entities, which can be title or a description. Entity ID or an item ID. It can be anything. It can be curriculum ID, it can be program ID, it can be class ID, it can be item ID, it can be any XYZ entity within the SuccessFactors LMS system. Entity image if applicable. Yes, we will understand what entity image is in the further classes. Next is entity status. So when I talk about entity status, it can be, active or inactive or both, right? So let's look at the next slide, which is entity header. So this part of whatever details you see here, you see the item title, you see the item ID, type. What is the type? This is an instructor-led type of class, right? This is the item type, which is defined as course. You see the revision date, which is the version number and the creation date. You see the status of the item, which is active, right? So this is entity header. So entity header contains all of these details. We can search by item ID or we can search by item title. All right. Now let's look at what's the next point is header actions. Depending on the entity and the permissions granted to the administrator, the header actions will display the relevant actions and the administrator can take against the entity. For instance, if the entity is an item, then one of the header actions will display the assign action, right? Number two, under actions, under this is an item admin interface, and okay. So under actions, we have assign, schedule, cover page, send email notification. So if this is an ILT, we have the option of schedule, which means we can schedule the classroom or instructor-led session by using the schedule option. We also have the option of assign, which means we can assign to all the users as and when required. We can assign it to ourselves for testing purposes. Many a times we as administrator also assign it to ourselves for testing purposes. So we have the option of assign over here, right? Next is, fourth one. Fourth one is title. Effective administrators support professional services. We update the title which is available over here, right? So this is title, fourth one, right? So let's move to the previous slide. Let's look at third one, definition of third one. Entity tabs. The entity related tabs of each of the 9 major entities are displayed across the top, sorry, please excuse me, of the entity detail area. Availability of an entity related tab depends on the permissions formerly known as workflows granted to an administrator. Upon accessing an entity, the entity details tab, summary tab is the default landing tab. So third one is entity tabs and fourth one is entity detail area. Central area where the administrator can perform multiple tasks such as create, edit and manage an entity. The entity detail area renders specific fields, settings, and functions based on the entity tab that is selected. Localized fields. Fields that are localized, such as item title and description, will have a globe icon next to them. Click the icon next to the field to enter a value for the field in each of the languages the customer is using. I talked about, locale. I talked about translations in the previous sessions. So when I talk about language, when I talk about translations, what does it mean? It means that the customer is using multiple languages. They have multiple country implementation or multiple country support, right? So in that case, we will have to enable the title. We will have to enable all the details when I talk about entity detail area. So all of the details should be available in that particular locale, right? Next is entity footer. Save and cancel actions are available for the administrator to save or cancel the information they enter. Okay. So layout of the entity manager. Entity tabs drop down. Display a complete menu of the entity tabs per entity. When an entity is selected, the header toolbar displays a list of possible actions that may be performed on the selected entity. So this is item details. A globe icon is appearing over here. What does it mean? It means that it has multiple country implementation. It has multiple language support. Okay, so we need to update this particular item title in multiple languages. What if it is not updated? Yes, it might be, chances that you might have missed on updating the locale or updating the item title in a different language. So when a user searches for that particular item ID using the item title, they will not be able to see the course. They will not be able to see the item through the search. Why? Because it is not available in their current language. It is not available in their system language, right? So it is important to take care when we have multiple languages, or the customer based out of different locales, based out of different geographies. So we need to take care of that as a administrator, that it is available under multiple languages. Okay, next is point number 7. We have something drop down over here. Okay, this is footer, entity footer. So here we can, click on save or either cancel. Suppose you think you have made a mistake over here, you have reviewed something, or you don't want to save it for that moment, right? So what do you click on? You click on cancel. What do you click on? If you think, whatever you have created, updated the details over there, you click on save. If you think everything is correct, okay? Next is the drop down. Item details, email notification, online content, agenda template, classes, request reasons, class request, library, categories. All of these things that are listed over here, you might not be able to see everything at one go over here. But all the tabs that are listed in the tab bar, you will be able to see everything under the drop down. You might click anything you want of your choice, anything you're working on in the workspace area. Okay, so this is important. Next, we move to the next slide now. I hope you're able to understand what we are going through. Now let's look at slide number 12, which is tabs with table layouts. Tabs with table layouts mean? This is something we have seen in the previous slide. This is the diagram we have seen in the previous slide. So when we talk about, this is something that we have seen in the previous slide. What does tabs with table layout means? We haven't seen, and we have seen something which is available as libraries over here. Under libraries, what are various tabs? We have icons, we have a dollar, we have plus, we have pen, we have cross, we have up and down. So what does each of these tabs with table layout, or what does each of this icon represent? Depending on the entity and the selected entity tab, there may be other entries or other data associated to the current entry. This data may be presented in a table format. If data has not been associated, the table will present a message explaining there are no associations with the entity. The functions available via the table toolbar are specific to the related entity tab. So we will see that, these all are there. We will see the same icons under the curricula, under programs, under categories, under assignment profiles. We will see the same icons in respect to each of the entities. So it is important to understand the significance of each of the icons. When I talk about the significance of each of the icons, what does it mean? Depending on that entity and the selected entity template, there may be other entities or other data associated to the current entity. Suppose we want to add a library to this particular item. Where do we click? We click on plus, which means an addition of item to a library to a item, right? Removal of the library from an item. Where do we click? We click on cross. We select it, we cross it. It means the library associated with the item has been removed. So these are all the associations, but it is important to understand what is the significance. Otherwise, if we do not understand the significance of each of the related entity tabs, that will end up, where we do not understand, and maybe we have deleted something off. We will not be able to retrieve the data. Okay. So this is very important for us to be careful while we add, edit, or delete, because once this has been removed from here, it means that we cannot retrieve the data into the system back. We will have to add it newly. We will have to edit it newly. All right. So that is important. Now, what that is a dollar sign icon? This function is specific to the library catalog entity tab within the item entity. On selection, it displays the change library price dialog window. So you understand that dollar. What does dollar relates to? It relates to cost. It relates to finance. It relates to the financials of the item. So I remember that in one of the sessions we talked about, LMS finance. When I talk about LMS finance, what does it represent? It represents that a cost is associated, right? A certain amount in either in dollars, either in pound, either in Malaysian ringgit, either in dirham. It can be any currency across the globe. So whatever country translations or implementations are being used by the customer, the price is available if there is a dollar sign, or if there is any cost associated to the item, it will be available under the dollar sign icon. So this function is specific to the library or catalog entity tab within the item entity. On selection, it displays the change library price dialog window. What is next? Next is add icon. This function displays the related association search function. The administrator can conduct a search and select from the search results to add and make the association. What does pencil icon means? On selection, the data within the related tab becomes editable. The administrator can make edits if needed and either save or cancel the changes. Like we have seen, what is the significance of save and cancel? Next is remove icon. At least one of the related data checkboxes must be selected for the remove icon to become active. Upon selection, the association is removed and localized, such as item title and description will have a global icon next to them. Click the icon next to the field to enter a value for the field in each of the languages the customer is using. Yes. Again, languages come into picture, which I have been, talking about in the previous slides, previous sessions, that language plays a very important role in the um, uh, LMS SuccessFactors learning management system, right? So it talks about item title and description, which will have a globe icon next to them. So globe icon means what? Globe icon means translations, languages in multiple forms, right? Sorting icon. On selection, a dialog window prompts the administrator to select the column to sort by and whether it should be in an ascending order or descending order. This function is only available for tables and columns where it is sensible. So this one, we see this in the alphabetical order. We might see from A to Z, or we can see it from Z to A. We can sort it in the pricing. Suppose, there is something which is $50, something which is 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, and 0. So we can put that sorting in that manner. Yeah. We can search it by weight if there is something that is available. So that is something to be understood. Now let's move to the next one, which is cross-entity linking. When accessing most entities, users frequently see related associations that they would like to investigate more fully. Cross-entity linking makes each association a hyperlink and takes the user to the entity in question. This means less searching and more efficient use of time. How do we use the time efficiently? First is recents, right? Using the recents option. Next is cross-entity linking, which saves the time. Whenever cross-entity linking is available for an entity, there will be a greater than symbol at the end of the row. For example, within a curriculum's content tab, an administrator can select an item title and go directly to that item. So what you see here over here is this is the curriculum page, right? You see curriculum details, you see curricula search, you see curricula title, curricula ID, curricula, status, and then you see under the contents that multiple courses bundle up together, right? A group of courses which can be either an ILT, or which means the item type would be a course, or it can be an online item type. Okay. So depending on what the online item type or depending on what the type of the, course is, so all of the contents that have been mapped to the curricula wherein it is called bundling of the group of items. So if we click on this cross entity linkage, so what does it mean? We have, we can directly, this will open up to the item details. It says that, for example, with the curriculum's content tab, an administrator can select an item tab and go directly to that item. So what does it mean? It means that when we go to the item title, we will be able to open the item directly. Okay. So this is cross entity linking. We also have something called as assignment profiles. So suppose assignment profiles are mapped under curricula. So what will happen? The list of all the assignment profiles that are mapped to curricula will be visible over here. Same thing, you will get the, icon, which is a greater than symbol at the end of the row. And once you click over here, you will be able to update and open that particular assignment profile as an administrator. You will be able to select an item title and go directly to that item. Same thing for in the case of assignment profiles. Same thing in the case of libraries as well. So we can use job code, which is used by, some of the customers for job codes. We can use categories, which is nothing but, I talked about the categories. Say, for example, we have, finance, we have HR, we have procurement, we have IT, we have networking, we have legal. All of these business categories can be mapped under the category section. And all of the listed categories that have been mapped under the curricula or can be used by that particular group of users will be available under the category section. All right. So when it means that, where it is available under the category section, you can go through the category section, you can map that curricula to the category so that all of the online type of courses or classroom type of courses that are being mapped to that particular curricula will be available and the category section and the relevant group of users will be able to access that. All right. So this is the significance of categories and cross-entity linking. First thing, it is time efficient. Second thing, easy access to use. Third thing, it becomes convenient and easy for linking the, linking the association and accessing the association linked to that particular entity. All right. So we have four advantages of cross-entity linking. What is the, disadvantage of cross-entity linking? There are certain disadvantages also. Yes. When you, either select or you either remove it from any of the associations through the cross entity linking, what will happen? It gets permanently removed off. The user data completely gets deleted from the system. And there should not be any linkage. You will not be able to retrieve the data neither as a user nor as an administrator. So it is very important for us to be very vigilant when we link a cross entity, because anything which is deleted out from the learning management system, not only in respect to cross entity linking, any entity, any functionality, when we say anything which is deleted off from the system, it is impossible to retrieve the data into the system. So be very vigilant, be very careful, even when you're working as an administrator, when you're working as a user, or you're requesting something to an administrator, or when you are helping the customer grant with certain rights, certain accesses as consultants. So please be very vigilant, please be very careful while deleting the data. Be double sure before you delete anything off from the system, because once deleted, the data cannot be retrieved irrespective of anything. It is not possible for SAP as well to retrieve the data into the system. So you will have to be very, very careful while dealing with any of the user data, any of the learning data into the production system. All right. Now, the process updates for LMS, I think we have looked at what are the key terms and definitions that are associated with each of the entities, what are associated with each of the models. So again, reiterating on each of the definitions and terminologies, which is very, very important, like user, item, curricula, program, learning plan, my learning assignments, and history record. So, irrespective of you work into the system as an administrator or as a user or as a support, it is important to understand the definition of each of these terminologies. These are the key terminologies, these are the key entities that are used day in and day out by all of the consultants across the globe. So if somebody, records or somebody helps you with the learning history record, you should be able to help them understand what is the purpose of learning history record, or what is the, definition, what that term means. So it means that a user's participation in the completion of an item or external event. For items, this record contains the completion status as well as the date of completion and any other related information. All right. So this is history record. Now, again, reiterating on what we have covered over here is SAP SuccessFactors Learning Interface. Accessing SAP SuccessFactors Learning as an administrator, we have seen menu navigation, we have seen top navigation, we have seen, various layouts, what each icon means, what each table represents, what each tabular form means. So it is important to understand how workspace can be used, or what are the certain modifications that can be used. Next is exploring the layout of the administrator interface and related entities. The next is navigation to cross-linked entities, which we talked about, linking of item with a curricula, linking of item with a program, linking of item with libraries, linking of item with assignment profiles, layout of the learning administration homepage. Next is learning administration homepage. The next one is menu navigation, recents, workspace area, layout of the entity manager, and summarization of the learning admin interface, right? So next, when one thing that I can talk about here in the previous slides is you see the option of selecting over here as add or remove criteria. So this field is very important and it can be used in multiple ways. So what does this mean is, when I talk about, add or remove criteria, we have seen something called as, or probably there is a definition which can, LMS, which we will understand better in the upcoming classes, is add or remove criteria called as search selector functionality. So what search selector functionality means? Search selector functionality means that, when suppose, for example, I want to, I want to remove this field of item status from here, right? So how do I, configure this on my admin page? I, as an administrator, I don't want to see item status. So how do we do that? Under add or remove criteria, you will see all the fields that are available under the item. So you will just unselect it and you will remove the item status field and save option. You also have the same option of save and cancel. When you click on item status as active, either click on save or cancel, what does it happen? It happens that item status field will not be visible. Similarly, when you talk about this tab, so under this tab, suppose you are given an access as an administrator, right? So when you're given access as an administrator, you might see that you're not able to see multiple items, or you may not be able to see items from all the domains. Why? Because you're not provided with all the permissions. You represent a particular domain. When I say south, right, you represent the southern part of the country, maybe. So you are given access only for looking out at the items which are visible in the southern domain, right? So when you look at the dome, try to search for any item security domains contains west, right? So if you write as west, you will see that there are no items found. So you might be wondering, yes, there are items into the system, but why am I not able to see it? Why? Because of the domain restriction, because of the permission restriction. So it plays a vital role in the security domain feature. So unless and until you're provided, first thing, very very important, provided with the right privileges, provided with the required access and permissions. Next is, providing with the relevant security domain. So if the security domain is not being maintained, or you're not granted with the permission, then is something, you will not be able to neither search, not click on any of the details or edit any of the details. So this is more of administrator side of interface.